afternoon, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. I have to say afternoon because I'm in the United Kingdom, but good morning to my fellow Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica, wherever you are in this world. As Madam Chair says, from every nook and cranny, we're going to be there and we're going to make our presence felt. So it's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, the organizers, IDS, specifically Ms. Teep and Mr. Purvitt, for extending the invitation for Victoria Mutual to join in the presentation this afternoon. Now, as we have been discussing before, the purpose of today's meeting is to speak about the mortgage possibility. Now, Victoria Mutual, it has the word mutuality or mutual there, and mutuality is in our DNA because we have been assisted Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica at home and certainly abroad in the diaspora to achieve this financial well-being. And of course, it started from a place of financial inclusion. We're committed to mutuality because it means that we're owned by and we run for the benefit of our members. So on the right of your screen, you will see all the entities or what we call strategic business units, or if you want to call them companies, that form a part of the Victoria Mutual Group. So a lot of persons, when they think of Victoria Mutual, they think of savings. They often think about just this one entity, the building society. But we have a pensions arm, an investment arm, there's a foundation, there's the finance limited, there's a wealth management arm, there's money transfer, property services, and we're also in insurance, a one-stop shop, so to speak. Now, today's presentation helps to communicate to you what our purpose is. And that is, of course, we combine our expert knowledge with value-added solutions so that we can help those who desire to achieve financial independence. Now, when you think of Victoria Mutual, as was mentioned by Madam Chair, you think about savings. And the fact is, for every stage of your journey, we offer a product that suits your need within the Victoria Mutual Financial Group. So starting from child age, from you're born, literally from your born. Once you have your birth certificate, your parent can come in with that birth certificate and your name, then they can operate a savings account for you. To young adult, where we offer savings instruments again that are linked to some scholarships that individuals can benefit from. Then they're going to move to want to get the first car, the insurance, the rent, move to young adulthood. We're thinking about investing. We're thinking about purchasing a home. You have middle age, paying off the mortgage, and of course, retirement. So we used to say for every move you make, we still believe in that fact. Every step or every stage of the journey, we're going to be there. In today, again, we're focusing on the mortgage process. Now, Mark Twain said that the secret of getting ahead, is simply getting started. And the information that we're going to share with you, it's based on our knowledge and based on what we have come to experience with members who we interact with and individuals who we interact with in the diaspora. And the information, of course, we hope will be beneficial because it's important that we appreciate that the mortgage process that some of us have come to understand and appreciate based on the diaspora market that we exist in, it is different. There's some similarities, but it's going to be different from what's happening in Jamaica. And there are three simple things I want you to remember from the presentation today. When you're thinking of a mortgage, save, search, and secure. And that's the basis of the presentation. Save, search, and secure. Now, when it comes to saving, what we have to help individuals appreciate that you have to save towards that ultimate goal. Buying a house is possibly the largest asset acquisition any individual will ever make in their life. And it's not just simply getting up to say, I'm going across the street to get a basic item such as bread or milk. It is an involved process. And therefore, what we have done is that we have come up with, for example, a product known as the iSave for Home that would help individuals to save towards that ultimate goal. We used to talk about PAD, now we talk about 1 Cocoa Full Basket. It's the same thing. It's a dedicated monthly saving plan that will help you to achieve the ultimate goal of home ownership down the road. And of course, we tie to that product some special mortgage benefits, and you have the flexibility because you're in the diaspora to save within Jamaican, Canadian, US, and GBP. I know my friends in France are going to say, where's the currency for us? But the fact is that, where Jamaica is concerned, these are the things that we're now saving in. But of course, whatever currency you earn, that can easily be converted into Jamaican dollars. So it's important that we save everything towards ultimately that goal. And you're going to see later why it is that you must save. All right. The next phase is search. We mentioned earlier, Victoria Mutual Property Services. That's our sister company. And it's important that you search for the right property. Why? Because when you begin to look in the market space, real estate is a big deal. And again, purchasing, it's going to be an exciting venture, but it can be challenging when you're purchasing thousands of miles from your interests. The UK, for example, is 5,000 miles from Jamaica. And it's important that we appreciate that this is going to be an involved and a great undertaking. So it's important that you have a clear understanding of the lending process and that you're able to identify the right property for you. So key steps when searching. Think of it. What is my reason for purchasing this property? Is it that I'm thinking that it's going to be an investment property that I'm going to probably invest with Airbnb, or I'm going to rent it out so I can make some money? Because if it's going to be that kind of property, then you're going to need to think of where it's going to be or located in relation to amenities. Location, location, location. If you're thinking of this property, for example, that you're going to retire there, then you're going to want to think of how close you are to certain facilities, medical facilities, supermarkets. You're going to want to think about safety, as how some persons would want to think about it. I mean, Jamaica is a beautiful country and we love it. So therefore, when we talk about how it is or where we're going to want our property to be located, it's important that we think clearly as to what it is that we want. There are some individuals we have come across that have a great affinity to the country, but they have left Jamaica so long ago. And where they left, either it be the district or community that they left years ago, it's no longer the same. But the affinity that they hold in their heart, it's what they remember. And the fact is that when you go and look back, it's not necessarily what it was then. And therefore you have to think about that. And that's why it's important that you inspect this property. You have to see it. If you're not able to travel to Jamaica to see it, then have a trusted friend. Even if the friend is not so much trusted, but let's say you have an enemy, we're just kidding when I say that, but from the perspective that you find someone with your tastes and preferences so that they can be your eyes. Pictures can be taken from any angle and it can look absolutely beautiful, but you need to have someone to inspect the property. And you need to think about whether or not you truly can afford this. Why? Because some persons will tend to say, boy, I visit the country and this look good. But we don't think of our obligations back home, the country we reside, that is, when we're visiting the country, visiting Jamaica. And therefore, what we tend to do is that we may stretch ourselves. But the fact is, based on this tip, you don't have to, or you don't need to buy the perfect house as your first purchase. Even if this is in Jamaica, start small, build equity, start with what you need. And as you progress through life, you go after you want. And sometimes too, for returning residents, we see some persons constructing 4 or 5 bedroom house because the kids are going to come visit. The reality is, guess what? You have weaned those children, you have sent them on their merry way. And therefore, when you go down to Jamaica and you're living your life, you don't want nothing more than a 2 or 3 bedroom. Because at the end of the day, when they come and visit you, you don't want them to stay too long. We know it's your family and you love them. But the fact is that you don't want where 2 persons are going home, retiring, and you have a 4 or 5 bedroom house. What are you going to be doing with it? It's going to be hard. So be realistic as to what it is that you're going to be doing. So some points to note when it is that you have seen this property and you're going to make an offer. You heard from the real estate board, Mr. James, just a while ago. You have to remember the property address, the location. Think of the offer price. Think of the down payment and the financing terms. Something that is particularly important that a lot of persons often forget about is point number 5 here, the closing cost. There are some costs that you will incur, which we'll see later on in the presentation. Pay attention to the closing date and possession date, and also when the offer expires, because this, of course, is critical. So now the path of securing the property. What is involved where that is concerned? Now, the mortgage process in itself is very simple. Excuse me. It starts off with what is called a pre-qualification. And again, we're going to see the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. The two are often confused, but they're very different. So you get a pre-qualification where we do a basic assessment to see whether or not you can afford the property. And any lender can do that for you. But of course, it's always important that you stick with lenders who have the expert knowledge, who know what they're doing and can advise you. You start with a pre-qualification to say, okay, can I afford a 20 million, a 25 million, or a $30 million property? We then get into the application where it becomes more involved, where we ask you for bills and receipts. We're going to ask you about your life. We're going to become your best friend, because the questions you're going to ask, you're going to say, why are you asking me so much question? But guess what? Remember, we say mutuality. Everybody is a member. So I am going to take, in this case, Miss Ramsey's money that she has been saving since she's a child, and I'm going to turn around and lend it to you. But I am accountable to Miss Ramsey. So I need to know everything as to where my money, where her money, and where the company's money is going. It's just as simple as that. And then you have adjudication, where you have a person who is sitting down, separate and apart from the mortgage advisor who you have met with, who is looking on the application solely based on numbers. So the numbers must make sense, because again, they have to think about Miss Ramsey's money that they're lending to you. And then once you get an offer, in other words, you're approved, we then extend to you an offer, you accept the offer. That process between you signing and accepting the offer can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So you're talking the entire process taken from start to finish roughly. Usually we say 90 days, where the mortgage is registered and of course disbursement of the loan amount. What do lenders look for? Lenders look for two things: your ability to repay the debt. So we're going to review your income versus your expenses, and we're going to take into consideration the potential mortgage monthly payment at that point in time to see whether or not you can afford it. Sometimes we will see individuals say, yeah, man, I can band the belly and make the sacrifice and really pay the mortgage. But the reality is we need to ensure that you're able to live to pay that mortgage. We're not in the business of putting persons out of their home. We're in the business of putting people in their homes. And therefore, it's important that you are able to afford this property. We also look at your attitude towards debt. Now, that is reflected in your credit score. Where you are, whichever region, we are going to ask you to get a credit report from that region. Because one of the things that is important is that we need to see how you have been handling credit in the past. We have seen situations already. Sometimes a relative come and we help them with either we take out a phone for them or we take out a gas bill for them and they make it run bad, and we say, guess what? It's not going to impact me. But when it actually comes back to bite is when you're now ready to take out a mortgage. You see the ideal property and yes, you can get it, but your credit score has been impacted by that bill that has not been paid. So we need to be mindful of those things. For ability to repay, proof of income. If you're employed, we're going to ask for you for your job letter, your pay slips, your bank statements, your annual tax returns, and we're going to complete the affordability tests. If you're self-employed, then we're going to get for 2 years bank statements. This time we're going to look at your audited financial statements. We want to see again the tax returns, and we're going to do the affordability testing as well. When it comes to your attitude towards debt, credit report, it was required for every single borrower, including those in Jamaica as well. What it is basically a numerical snapshot of the information in your credit report, and we use it to assess your credit worthiness. We want to see your credit score fall within the minimum of the fair category. The higher the score, the better it is. If it is that you have a bad score just now, still talk to us, because we can give you tips as to how it is that you can improve the credit score by way of improving payment habits, paying up the debt, reducing your overall total debt, and how it is that you can keep revolving debt at a minimum. Now, it's important that we be prepared for the costs. Unfortunately, sometimes individuals only think of the deposit. But the deposit can range from anywhere between 10 to 25%, dependent upon the vendor. The norm we see in the market is 10%. So it means that we will lend, that's Victoria Mutual will lend the difference, which is 90% of the purchase price or value, whichever is lower. You need to think of, for example, the credit report fee. There's a processing fee for the loan between 0.5 to 2%. And then there's some professional fees because there's some reports that you're going to need to get, the valuation report, quantity surveyors report, surveyors ID report. There's transfer duty, stamp duty, legal fees, mortgage registration costs. So the norm, worst case scenario, is if you add 10 plus at least 12, that's 22. Then you add at least another 2, that's 24. Round it off at 25. Any property you see now, what we're saying to you, make sure you have at least 25%. of the value or the purchase price of that property to start the ball rolling. And that's why you see the importance of saving. Save the bonus. Save any additional amount that you get in any increases. If you stop making a payment on a loan, continue to save that because you were doing without it before. Granted, some of these fees, the professional fees, they're not paid upfront, as is the case of the deposit. They're going to be needed over or during the duration of that 3-month or 90-day window. But the fact is that you're still needed to go and have it. You still need to have it. So it's important that we save, save, save. Now, when you're thinking of the mortgage, of course, I'm going to tell you to come to Victoria Mutual. Why? Because we have the best rate out there, 4.25 or 5% on these currencies that are here, foreign currencies. If you're going to be a first-time homeowner in Jamaica, then we have a special that we can offer you at 6.95. It goes up until July, and we can at least talk to you if you've seen this rate here in the IDS. Then you can go through the team at IDS and make contact with us, and so we can at least ensure you get this 6.95. There's discounts that we do offer, 50% on valuations. And of course, we have a dedicated and knowledgeable team that are here to actually assist. Now, how much you can afford, it depends on how much you put down. Remember, we said that if it's a situation where you put down 10%, you're going to borrow 90. If you put down 25%, you're going to borrow 75%. And that's why you talk about loan to value, because how much are you actually borrowing? And then we look at your debt to income ratio. We hear people talking about DSR. What's that? Basically, we're saying how much of your income is covering it. And any legal activity that you do that brings in income, we will count. So if you can bake and you sell and you make some money, yes. If you can do hair good and you make some money, yes. If you know how to do a little trade and you do something on the side, and it can count as income, are you willing to prove that? Remember, we said that we're going to get into your business. So you need to let us know these things so that we are the experts and can say, okay, this can be used, this cannot be used. And it will help to determine your affordability. Now, one of the things is that persons will ask, I'm contributing to the NHT. Do you do the joint financing? Yes, we do that. We are able to combine the VMBS mortgage with what it is that you're able to get from NHT. I know we have a presenter that's coming right after, and she'll tell you more as to how it is that you can access your NHT benefit from overseas or being in the diaspora market. But again, yes, you can apply through Victoria Mutual. We simply submit your information to the National Housing Trust. They come back to us and tell us how much you're supposed to get and the rate of interest. No, we do not determine that. The NHT tells us exactly if you're supposed to get the 6.5, you will get it. At what rate? They will give it to you. Should you apply as a single person or a joint applicant? The main concern here is affordability. If you're single, can you afford it by yourself? Yes. If you're married, I will tell you, make sure your spouse is on it. As I said to them often, I have to make sure I put my wife on it. I want to continue to live my life. But at the end of the day, the reality is that you have to think carefully who you're putting on your property. You notice this statement here, be absolutely certain you wish to have a joint applicant on your property title, as it can prove very costly later on to remove that individual. And it's important to note that we're going to consider the same thing for that individual, their income and their credit history. Now, pre-qual, what it is a basic review of your income and credit worthiness to determine how much money you can borrow and what price property you can afford. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not a commitment. It is a useful way to help home buyers to avoid unpleasant surprises. And very often, Mr. James spoke about the real estate board a while ago. You find that persons within the real estate board, real estate brokers, they would simply ask you get a pre-qualification before they take your commitment seriously. Because it's important that there are no unpleasant surprises down the road. And these things can be very costly. So what are the key takeaways? Identify the property that is right for you, not for your friend, not for somebody else who you have seen. It's what you want. It ticks all the boxes in your search criteria list. Be sure that you inspect the property. Use a real estate agency. I'm going to push Victoria Mutual Property Services as well. But the reality is that you can really check any realtor. You want to ensure that the property is carefully inspected. If you're unable to do it yourself, then you can do it through a trusted friend or relative. Be sure your finances are in order. to cover all the costs. You have the deposits, you have the closing costs, the fees and the charges. And then after you have the mortgage, you have the monthly payment. You're going to also have maintenance fees. We spoke earlier, somebody mentioned about gated communities. Yes, you have to think about your monthly maintenance fee as part of your mortgage. You have to pay it. You have to think about repairs, insurance, taxes. These things you also have to ensure that you keep the equity up in your property. The product, you have to make sure the mortgage product is right for you, meaning that whether it's going to be a foreign currency loan or a Jamaican dollar loan, have a clear understanding of the lending process, take time to go through your sale agreement, take time to go through it with your lawyer to ensure that you're advised properly. You must act. You must comply as quickly as possible with requests that are made of you, whether it's from the lending institution or your legal representative, because your time is your money. And the buying and selling of property is in accordance with the prescribed rules of Jamaica. There's no man or no shortcut, no quick fix, no do a thing. It's not possible. It is a set process, right? And if you're able to do that, then certainly we'll gladly support and help you along the way. These are our offices in the diaspora. In the United Kingdom, we have 3 locations in Brixton, Tottenham, and Birmingham. In the United States, we have an office in Florida, in Miramar. And of course, the newest kid on the block is our New York office that's located in Brooklyn. You can email us at manager@myvmgroup.com. We also facilitate online mortgage acceptance through our web portal or mortgage portal there. And you can call us toll-free from Canada and the United Kingdom. And I must say that we do quite a bit of business development activity in Canada where we direct persons to our online channels. It has been a pleasure sharing this presentation with you, and I hope you continue to enjoy today's webinar.
Mr. Smith, I think you've covered everything. I think we can just log off and just go home right at this point in time. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Let me tell you something. Sometimes I wish I could just be 19 again, you know, because the things I'm learning now at 40 something, you know, I just didn't know at 19 or 20. So we could make some better sound decisions. And but you know what, it's never too late because we can also teach our children. And so this is critical, what is happening right now. This is pivotal. This is phenomenal. All right. So Mr. Smith, a few questions for you quickly. So one question is, if there was a previous mortgage with VM, and I am assuming it was in good stead, will that affect another loan?
You're right. Was it in good stead? How you have been paying the mortgage, it's critical to ensure that you have been paying that well. It always comes down to affordability. So we're going to take that monthly payment into consideration when we're doing the assessment, in addition to the new monthly payment.
Okay.
So in a short answer, if you can afford it, yes.
Awesome. How long are inactive accounts held?
Inactive accounts are held quite some time. If you had an inactive account from you were a child, it is still with us. It's still there. What you simply need to do is visit any of our offices or make contact with any of our overseas offices or member engagement center based on the number that's listed there. And then we can give you some information on that account and how you can get your records updated.
Excellent. There were a few other questions, but you actually answered them during your presentation about how, you know, what are the requirements. There was also a question about home improvements and stuff, but you know, you ably handled most of the questions that came popping in. But they were asking the same way you would give a loan for a mortgage, would you also facilitate a loan for expansion or home improvements?
Definitely, that is home improvement. So you go through the same requirements. What would happen in that instance is that the person would already have had a free title, hopefully. If they haven't had a free title, but let's say the loan is with Victoria Mutual, they'll simply come in and they're asking for a home improvement loan in that instance. If it is that they have the loan with another lending institution, sometimes, for example, if it is that they took out an NHT loan and NHT was the only provider of that debt, then what we'd have to do is that we'd have to take over that loan, and they would have to be paying it the loan very well as well. We'd have to look at their loan history. So we pay that out and also give them the additional amount to do with them.
Okay, awesome. A question from Deidre in France. Which credit company, she's asking, which credit company operates in France in that region? She's asking. And I think a follow-up to that was, I think you did respond to it, if the credit report is from Jamaica or from the region that you live in.
It's from the region that you live in. Not, you wouldn't ask someone in the diaspora to get a credit report from Jamaica.
Right.
But internationally, what we have seen, those that are acceptable are Equifax and Experian. So they tend to be global. So you can look for those. If it is that you haven't found those, then what we're willing to do is that we have a panel for everything in terms of panel of lawyers, panel of evaluators. Based on their location in France, they will just find out or get a credit report from a credit rating agency in France. Once they present that, then we will do our necessary due diligence and then present that to our adjudication team for acceptance.
Okay, so you could do a panel thing and set up and do a special thing.
Exactly.
I hope that answers your question. Well, Fatima and Deidre are saying that's not in France, but I'm sure we can do a follow-up with it. Listen, let me say something to you. Not just for this question about the credit report, but Leighton, you touched on a very, 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 when I say in Jamaica, you touch somebody can, because there are so many persons overseas who want to buy a property or build something out here and they have some experience. I know personally of a story where the man was sending money to the girl and she would have take a picture every day and video and send him of where the property reached. And it wasn't his property at all. When he came to Jamaica, totally different something. Not one block or one bag of cement was bought. But we are so grateful for IDS, because you mentioned about a trusted friend, but integrated diaspora services, that is the purpose of them. They will be the on-the-ground people who will go and check on the thing, match it back with the title to make sure it's at the right place, the construction happen. They are the on-the-ground trusted source that you would now use to mitigate against all those challenges and to, just make sure that everybody live in peace and harmony and nobody now have to go to a certain part of the island to get certain things done.
I choose ideas because they bring our hearts back. Hearts back home, the place I know, the place I go. My heart